Let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't let me.
Well, welcome back to Krown's Kiddo Cave on this beautiful Christmas Eve Tuesday, and happy Christmas, happy holidays to all the people out there. If you're not celebrating Christmas, well, happy whatever holiday you want to celebrate, or if it's just a regular Tuesday for you, wish you well as always, because, well, why fucking not? Anyways, we got plenty to talk about with Bitcoin. I want to follow up on yesterday's price action. We did get the pullback that we expected down to 7250, 7300-ish region, and actually overshot it by a little bit over here, but that's okay. Close enough is close enough in my book, and now we get to play the game of, are we setting in a higher low, or is this a massive fake up before Red Dildo Christmas? Anyways, as you can see in the live stream right in the background right here, no camera today, unfortunately, as I am deep inside the very deep inside the middle of nowhere of a Finnish forest in an unknown location, covered by snow, surrounded by all sorts of trees and whatnot. It's absolutely beautiful over here, but my connection is limited, so I do want to say, hey, if you've been trying to contact me via Discord or whatever social media venue, I am doing my best to get back to you, but please do understand that first off, my connection is limited, and also I want to be respectful to my girlfriend's parents, who I'm with right now, and spend some time with the family. So, before we get into the actual analysis, as you can see in the background right there, the sale for all the programs is still running throughout the end of the year. No code is needed, and that applies to both the technical analysis program, which I'll actually highlight right in over here, and the master your options program. Both these guys right in over here. And again, it goes over to the end of the year, so no rush on this. Again, it is the holiday season, so I imagine that most people probably not too enticed with Magic Internet money right now, and probably more enticed with their families. Anyways, if you are interested in these sorts of things, please do make sure that it's actually applicable to you. These programs, I always want to make sure that it's a good fit, and mainly that what that means for me is that, one, you know, you're very much interested in something like this. You want to take it in a little bit more of a more serious manner, and two, you also have the time to invest in something like this, because not only is it a big financial commitment, but it's also a big time commitment as well. As both of these programs, both the TA program and the options program respectively, are over 35 hours long now. In fact, the TA program probably even a little bit longer than that, really. As I believe I just uploaded the 44th or the 45th video last week. The options program, another, actually, I believe it's a little over 50 videos as well, and very, very long. Now, I would say that the TA program is probably going to be most applicable to most people who are interested in this sort of a thing. But again, that is for you to decide, and I want to make sure that you have full information. Watch the videos right here. They will give you a little bit more of an in-depth explanation of what is included in the program, but just kind of like a general outset, the TA program is the all-encompassing program that's not only technical analysis, but also position management, risk management, understanding underlying market dynamics, and a few other things as well. The options program is a little bit more advanced. It is implied. It is assumed that you know at the very least a little bit of basic technical analysis to make the most of it. So it's a little bit more involved. There's a bigger learning curve on that one, and I would suggest that definitely make sure that you have your TA down first before getting invested into anything else. Now, of course, as always, I want to make sure that people also understand that, well, these programs are really designed for the people who are really, you know, looking to do this in a more serious manner, typically as a living, not always, but typically as a living. I'm not here to be the arbiter of that, but, you know, my point is that if that's not you, definitely just take advantage of the free content, as that is going to be plenty. These are going to be overkill for anyone who's not, like, fully invested in something like this. So always want to make sure about that. I think with all of that said, I should say that it also does come with the members-only Discord community, as well as a couple of proprietary indicators. And speaking of indicators, the Jewel should be coming back online in the next couple days, so I'll make an announcement for that as well. But for right now, just these guys are on sale, unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately, but just not the Jewel, as I know a lot of people have been asking for. And no code is needed for the 20% off. Just head on over to the crowntrading.net website. There's a link in the description of this video. And again, make sure that these programs are applicable to you by watching the introductory videos for these guys. Okay, enough of that. Let's talk about some goddamn Magic Internet money over here. Yes, there we are. All right, let me just make sure that we're recording. Okay, microphone's working. Great. Enough shilling of my own shit. Jesus Christ, man. It always feels weird when you talk about your own shit, but I do want to make sure that the people who actually are interested in those programs, who have been waiting for some sort of a discounted period, do have access to that. Oh, and I should also mention that there are payment plans all the way up to 10 months for both programs as well. Anyways, let's talk about some Bitcoin action. So we did get the pullback that we were looking for yesterday. I believe I said somewhere around 7,300 to 7,250 is where I'd be looking towards, and we did overshoot that by about a few bucks. We got down to 72.17 on Mexico, but now we get to play the game, the big game of, is this just another high? Are we setting a higher low right now, or are we getting another macro lower high? And what I would do is I'd kind of zoom out to the weekly right here and keep in mind the greater trajectory of Bitcoin right now. So while I do still see Bitcoin as overall bearish on the macro here, the fact is that the last weekly close that we did have was pretty damn good. Not only was a massive hammer total close that we got a couple days ago, but also we closed back above the Cyan 89 expansion average right here. And as you can see, we've just come back down to test it very, very lovingly on that last move to the downside. So I would say that going onwards and forwards from here, as long as we do not close any weeklies below the Cyan 89 exponential average, I do believe, even though I do believe that Bitcoin's overall, bearish on the macro, that we have some upside in the short to medium time frame. So we got the pullback there. We got the pullback that we were looking for. So the short term was met. Now I actually do still have a bias in the short to medium term of looking for some upside from this region, of which we've already seen about $100 up from the 72.50-ish target that we had yesterday. So looking at this right here, you do see that Bitcoin has plenty of room to kind of fill out to both the upside and the downside within this channel. Let me actually, where's my chart? Sorry, I'm actually operating off of my laptop right now. I don't have my mouse, so it's like it's really difficult to navigate, but I'm doing my best right now. And looking at this right here, we are kind of operating within this channel. Now, falling channels typically do break out to the upside, but there's not a time component included of that. I've seen assets stay in falling channels for, years, for example, in equities. I mean, shit, man, sometimes even like a decade in some cases. Of course, Bitcoin's only been around for about a decade, so can't really say the same thing. Anyways, my point is that we've tested the bottom side of this channel a couple times now. Well, more than a couple times, but a couple times in the more proximal price action. And usually after doing something like that, we will come back and at the very least test around the median of the range, which in this case is pretty much around the 55 exponential average right here. That is at a critical level of about 7,800, which is incredibly important because remember, on the macro, we still have a head and shoulders in place on the weekly, left shoulder, double head, right shoulder right here, as long as we are below that critical pivot, again, right below the weekly 55 exponential average right here, which is going to be about 78 or 7,900 depending upon your exchange. So as long as we are below that, the head and shoulders target is actually still very much valid, and that'd be bringing us all the way down to the 886 Fibonacci tracer from the ultimate high to the ultimate low of the last market cycle, or sorry, of this last of this last run, which would also be in line with this horizontal right here, also meeting the target of that head and shoulders. So three things can float with each other, and actually we could take this out just one more step further. And if we go over here to the BLX index and look at the 377 exponential average, this blue guy down here, very, 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 very important for traditional markets long term, is probably going to crawl its way up to that lower $4,000 number as well. So again, as long as we're below that pivot, that is still very much the macro as far as I see it. Of course, I do think that there'd be bounces along the way down, and technically speaking, as a trader, I would not just blindly trade for a move down there. I have to treat each and every one of these major horizontals, starting with the 65, 6,600 region right here as a potential reversal zone, although I do believe that if we tested this region once again, it's very unlikely to hold up. But technically speaking, until we actually fully and formally break it on a weekly, or let's call it like a daily total close, we don't really need to wait for a weekly here, but a daily below there, then yes, I would look for the next range down here to the 786, down around the 200 exponential average on the weekly, and the 200 simple going to be conversion on that region, and then yes, below there, that if that one does fail, then yes, we could look all the way down to the mid to low 4,000s. Does meet up pretty damn well with the volume profile, as you can see right here. As the thickest of the nodes is down in that lower 4,000 territory, and you actually do notice that we have pretty much nothing in the middle of the fives, even though I do think that we very likely have a strong bounce there in potential reversal. So looking at the volume profile, it actually does make a lot of sense to come back down into that region longer term, as we did kind of skip a few steps in building this building. I like to make the analogy when looking at the volume profile, it's like building a structure, like a strong foundation for a skyscraper essentially, and you want the bottom of the foundation to be as strong as possible, represented by these higher value nodes down here. The stronger that those are, the bigger that those are, the higher that you can build that off of, and we kind of skipped a few steps right here. So coming back in and filling in that region would offer up some good market symmetry there. Not only that, but not only that, but you can kind of look at this as like a gap in price action as well. We zoomed through on the way up, we zoomed through on the way down, we zoomed through again on the way up throughout that region, and the market kind of wants to make sure that everyone's on the same page by coming down there and probably filling it out. So longer term, I do still think that that's quite likely, but that will all go by the wayside again if we can get a weekly total close above the green 55 exponential moving average right here. By the way, if you're wondering why I'm using all sorts of terrible words in the presence of my girlfriend's family, it's because they don't speak any English, so you can say whatever you want. It's great. It's absolutely phenomenal. Anyways, it does make for some awkward conversations here and there, but they're amazing people, really. Anyways, really enjoy being here. Jesus Christ, man, I fucking love this place. It's great. Very wholesome in the finished forest. Anyways, okay, so that's still the macro, but in the micro, in the lower time frames, I do think that we have some upside, and you can see that we have very obviously created a nice little cradle of support right around the 4-hour 200 moving average, which is also kind of a flipping of that former resistance from this breakout of that initial middle of December run, December 18th, right here at about 7250, 7300, now being tested as support. Sorry, former resistance now being tested as support. So it's very critical that Bitcoin does hold this area, and in fact on Stamp it's a little bit more sloppy than perhaps Mexico, for example, but you can see that within this region right here, this is the area to be aware of, so to speak. And I would say that if we do lose this area, if we do start to close, or sorry, more importantly, open and close 4-hour dildos below the 200 simple, because we've already closed one below, but that wasn't good enough, and I think that was quite an obvious play. In fact, I did just play a scalp off that region, but more importantly, if we open and close below the 200 simple, I do believe that we actually will come back down at the very least 7100, and that puts us in danger of taking out last week's low. If that were to happen, I immediately go from being short to medium term. Bullish is the wrong term. I'm looking for upside though. I do think that we fill at the upside of the range from this region, but if we were to go back down below that region and take out the last week's where is it? Was it like on a 2-day or something? Where was it? Hold on. Going across the board here. You know what? I take that back. That area isn't as important as what I thought. But I would be looking for a bounce around 7,000 to 7,100 if we do lose the 4-hour 200 simple. But for right now, it is operating as potentially another local low, and this would be a higher low in this case, and we would actually have an uptrend on not only a 4-hour, but I believe in a 12-hour as well, which would be pretty damn impressive. So for right now, I will remain short to medium term looking for upside on Bitcoin as long as Bitcoin is essentially not breaking the macro structure here, which we can see as on low of a time frame as like a daily, let's call it. If we do take out the last, I think this is like last week's low, yeah, where is it, like 70.34, yeah, there we go, that's the number that I was looking for. If we do take out that area, then this starts to look a lot more nasty here, big old nasty girl Bitcoin. But looking at the 2-day and the 3-day, we do see that area is essentially laden by the 6950-ish support region, which has held up this last sort of breakdown attempt. So it's both the 2-day 200 simple right here, as you can see, and the 3-day 200 simple, I believe, as well, both coming in this region around 6,900 to 6,950. So as long as Bitcoin's above there, I don't really have a reason to believe that Bitcoin is breaking down once again on the macro. I do believe that we're going to play out, some upside from this region, and probably play out some more upside before breaking down further. So that would be my critical point where I start to change my mind on the macro once again. But for right now, I do believe that we're probably in for a little bit of a bouncy bounce. And tentatively speaking, I'd probably look for another test actually of the 21 exponential moving average on the 3-day right here, which is in that 7,750 to 7,800 range, which is my kind of like targeted region for this, for the lower echelons of this first range. Okay, so I just said a lot of words that are probably convoluted here, but let me start to go back down through the lower time frames to flesh out this idea, so it's a little bit perhaps less confusing, because I can definitely understand that was a little bit of a roundabout way of perhaps wrapping this up. So and I will try to make this video a little bit on the faster side if I can. Anyways, okay, so 4-hour right here. Okay, if we can confirm If we can confirm another 4-hour dildo both open and closing above, especially the 200 simple, but also, I'm sorry, above the 200 simple, but especially the 21 exponential moving average, which is about 7250 and 7300 respectively, then we will see some hidden bullish divergence on a 4-hour being constructed. RSI is making a significantly lower low, and price action is making a higher low, and that would likely force us back up to the $7,500 region right here. If that were to happen, we're going to see momentum also start to cool off quite a bit here. We do see 4-hour Stokes coming down. They're going to be testing the edge of the bearish control zone soon. I think 3-hour Stokes are already there. 2-hour Stokes are going to be way down there, and hourly Stokes are going to be curling up. So we are starting to use up a lot of momentum here, and I do believe that this is going to align with Bitcoin probably flattening out, going a little bit sideways as we construct a higher low on the on these medium time frames here, and then probably mount another attempt back into like the 7,500-ish region, short to medium term, so to speak. However, again, this all goes by the wayside. Even if we like take out this low right here, in fact, like the 72.17 tick that we just saw, if we do that, then we very, very likely head all the way back down to like 7,100-ish region. Again, that doesn't really destroy the macro. We could still have another bounce attempt there. Again, nothing really changes on the macro as far as like continuing to trend to the downside until we actually fully and formally, break 6950, let's call it. And I would say on no less than a 12-hour, a 4-hour below there would probably be good enough. But realistically right now, this is a time to be a little bit more reserved, in my opinion, with regards to trading. I'm only trading ranges in this region. I really don't want to play like big longs. I don't think that playing big shorts in this region is the right thing to do either. But overall, I do think that Bitcoin just floats its way to the upside, and then we probably find some more drama maybe in like around 7,800. If that area gets broken to the upside, then probably mid 8,000s is where we find ourselves around. But for right now, we actually did construct our first higher high on the 12-hour for in a very long time, actually, I mean, we haven't made an uptrend on the 12-hour since. I mean, you can kind of call like this one off right here I suppose an uptrend, kind of, but it didn't get any follow through. So I mean, it's been months really is what I'm trying to show. So we do have a little bit of a change of behavior, and especially if Bitcoin can hold up above the $7,200 pivot, this is going to be not only just a higher high but also a higher low in place, and that would construct an uptrend. And again, we haven't seen that in a long time, so that would be a change of behavior, and that would be significant, of course. And that would lead on to the daily, the next sort of major time frame here. Although the daily still has a lot of work to do, to be fair. So that's kind of what I'm looking at right here. Again, make no mistake of this. Even if I am looking for upside within this short to medium term, I do still remain macro bearish here, especially as long as we're below the daily 200 simple, which is currently looming at about 7,300, which is actually conveniently below our last macro lower high at about 9,500 on the weekly. So keep in mind all these different things going on over here, as Bitcoin is still overall bearish, but that doesn't mean that we can't have a nice little rally attempt in this downwards market. Of course, things don't move in a straight line to the downside, and after a couple of bull wicks coming off the bottom side of the channel that we've been looking at for the past few months, it does kind of tell me that we probably do have another test back up. So let's flesh out this a little bit more. All right. So we've spoken about the invalidation levels. We've spoken about the short term. We spoke about the 4-hour as well. And essentially, if we are going to see some upside, I want to see it flatten out a little bit more over here, and then probably just floats its way up, later on this week. I do think that the next, obviously the next, the current major resistance that we're dealing with right now is where we just found our high last night, right? It's this horizontal right here. If we actually, let me put on my, sorry, again, my, I don't have my mouse with me, and I have to use this like trackpad, which is just fucking disgusting. But that's around 7,600, 7,550-ish region, the same target that we had coming into a couple days ago from that rally after taking out the 3-day high. Man, getting really fucking deep right now. This is not as deep as I wanted to get during this day, but you know what? It's important. Okay, so yes, if we do take out this area once again, about 7,550, 7,600-ish region, I do believe that Bitcoin will make another run towards the prior high of this consolidation late November at around 7,800 to 7,900. That's where things get interesting once again. So I'm just going to mark this area off right here. So I do think that Bitcoin probably does make another attempt back up into this region right here. And for full disclosure, I do not have a position on. I'm only scalping lower time frame, or I'm only scalping ranges on like a 4 hour essentially, and I'm not even really trading all that much for the holiday season. But this would be the critical area right here for the next sort of swath of price action where things start to change on the medium time frames once again. Let me bring out a blue box. There we go. All right. Whoops. There we go. All right, lovely. Let me just make sure that things are good over here. Okay, cool. Man, this is very difficult to do with just one screen. God damn. Anyways, so yes, I would probably be looking for Bitcoin to float its way up, over the next, I don't know, week or two, whatever it ends up being. I don't really have a time frame for it. Essentially, as long as we do not lose that critical level of about 6,900, 6,950 on a 12-hour closing basis, but higher time frame a little bit better. But I think the 12-hour would get it pretty damn well. So yes, that's essentially what I'm looking for right here. Also, on top of that, we do see that the 4-hour 200 simple has been, well, we've regained it essentially, which is a change in behavior going all the way back from early November as well. So that's also why I'm kind of thinking that this would be a good area to mount a little bit of a short squeeze from. So yes, to the upside, this is the next major area. Does it look to me like we're going to get back up there? Probably yes. However, what happens from that region is going to be the next major insight into the macro. Essentially, if we do reject from 7,800, then well, you already know. More importantly, if we actually do close above it, if we even just take out this prior high, just even tick above it, which was 78.70 on Mexico, 78.70 on GDAX, then I would look for extension actually significantly further into the middle of the 8,000s, most likely right around here. Again, not going to happen at the snap of fingers, but over time, very, very likely, which would be around 8,300 in this range between 83 and 85, which is going to be pretty much smack dab in the middle of our macro range right here, on this falling channel, and would also meet around the yellow 21 exponential moving average, which is actually currently coming in right around there. And I am essentially bearish on Bitcoin from a weekly trending perspective, as long as we're in a downtrend, which we are in a downtrend until we take out this last prior high right here at about 9,500, and then especially as long as below the yellow 21 exponential moving average. But again, that offers up a lot of potential upside. I mean, that's about $1,000 from where we are right now. So definitely very tradable. So it's not very helpful to just like blindly short at this current price action right here. I don't think it's not what I'm doing. Of course, it's not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but I am happy to share what I'm doing in these sorts of situations. So to me, this looks like a good time to kind of reset all of the oscillators, and probably mount another attempt to the downside a little bit later, like early 2020 perhaps. Looking at weekly RSI, still pretty damn bearish. Looking at weekly Stokes right here, losing a little bit of momentum, as you can see. They typically don't like to stay down there for too long. And weekly Joule is, we had about a $1,000 move down from the last signal. So this signal happened middle of July, so that was around 12,000. We got this signal right here. This was early November, so this was right before this breakdown from 8,400. So yeah, that was about a $2,000 move from that price point. I'm really struggling to come up with a bias for that with regards to the Joule, as has that move already played out. I mean, that's a $2,000 move, even though the oscillator itself does look like it, usually will come down a little bit further from that if I was like comparing it with a lower time frame. But this is a weekly, and very rarely do you get weekly signals. So it's $2,000, a reasonable, thing to say that signal's already played out. I think so, yes. That's, from that price point, that's got to be like, what, a 20% move? From top to bottom, yeah, sorry, even more than that, 23% move. So yes, pretty damn significant. Anyways, I'm just trying to show that Bitcoin can bounce up here, really not change around anything on the macro, and probably shake out a shit ton of shorts, as everyone's trying to short every last little $100 up from this region, which I do not believe is the right thing to do. I think that we're short-term, medium-term, probably looking for some upside. I could be completely wrong about this, of course, and Santa's going to drop a bag of red dildos in front of my face, and I'll be happy to not be trading this. But especially as long as we maintain about 7,100, I don't really see any I don't really see like a major threat of continuing trend to the downside on the macro from this region. Probably play out a little bit of a bounce, and then later on, drama continues. Let's see, what else do we have here? Now there are a few things that are actually quite damning. So while my bias kind of is a little bit set, I do want to show that there's actually plenty of things that would not be so great. 12-hour Stokes getting tired over here. Now they're not crossing down just yet, but they are getting tired. 10-hour Stokes, I believe, are already there. Yes, indeed. And both of those timeframes have been pretty damn good at getting Bitcoin's, medium-term moves, essentially. In fact, I mean, the 12-hour has been pretty damn good at just getting all of Bitcoin's moves, to be fair. So I would say that if that does turn down, I mean, that actually does offer up a legitimate threat that we come all the way back down to 7,100. However, again, 7,100 does not break the macro. So, really forming biases in this range is not I don't think it's the best thing to really be doing, because we probably don't have enough, price action to really be looking at. But if we are looking at the lower time frames here, once again, I want to pull up a fresh chart. We can, do we want to use this one? Do we want to use this one? This one's fine. What we could be looking at, assuming that we don't have enough price action to really analyze just yet, is potentially this is just one massive, well, not massive, but this would be a descending broadening wedge right here, which typically does break out to the upside. But that would also imply that we could test back down, as low as 7,000 or 7,050, and still maintain that, and then play out a short term up from there. So again, this is why I'm a little bit hesitant to commit to either side just yet. I do think that it's appropriate to be short term, medium term, looking for overall upside, as long as Bitcoin does not break the critical level of about 6,900, 6,950 on a 12-hour delta close. And especially as long as we're below 7,100, we could come back down there. It's completely fine. It doesn't really destroy anything. We're still creating higher lows from that point on some decent time frames. So let's go check out expected moves with regards to historical volatility, and we do see the first deviation is encompassing the region actually above 7,100, between 7,150 and about 7,550 to the upside, so pretty much encapsulating our current low time frame range, and I would more or less agree with that. So that would say that it is actually it's quite unlikely that we actually do break to the downside from this region. Also quite unlikely that we do break to the upside from this region. We probably have a day of sideways here for the Christmas times. Santa Claus just deciding which bag of goodies he wants to bring to you tomorrow. But my point is that this is a probability, of course, so it's not like a done deal, but it would say that if we were to break to the downside, it's less than a 16% chance to happen today, and just by the same token, to break to the upside, above that next critical range of 7,600 on the lower time frame range, that would also be about a little bit less than 16% as well. So a lot of things to be considered of here, as today is probably mostly going to be sideways, and I would say that mostly sideways within this region right here, as long as we don't break down or break to the upside, is going to set us up for some more short to medium term upside. With the top of the range of the medium term timeframes being around 7,800. If 7,800 does break, then yes, I would look for a move to about 83 to 8,500 region. So another potential $500, $600 move, which again, very, very tradable, or $500 to $700 move, which is pretty damn good. So yeah. A lot of things to be aware of here. I do think that there's going to be a little bit more opportunity later on in this week, but probably today and tomorrow are going to be more or less quiet. But then again, Bitcoin has a great history of doing what you don't want to do. Let's go check out CMEs for a second. What are CMEs doing? CMEs filled the gap pretty damn well. Now we have still failed to get any sort of a daily total close above the yellow 21 exponential average on CMEs right here, which I think is quite telling, as we haven't really gotten, we're still in a downtrend here. It's still very much bearish. We still got the death cross running over here. I do think that it is feasible to think that Bitcoin could very easily, Bitcoin very much is in danger of actually continuing trend from this lower region, especially looking at CMEs. In fact, now CMEs should be closed tomorrow and probably on a half day today, if I had to guess. Let's see, are they moving right now? Yes, they are moving with spot. Looking at weekly CMEs, we're actually held below the Cyan 89 exponential average. So yeah, CMEs are actually more bearish, and I do put more weight on CMEs. But man, yeah, this one's becoming very, very difficult. I'm probably not being all that helpful today, and I do apologize about this. But I just want to show that sometimes there's just times where I don't really have a strong opinion on things. Let's see, what else do we want to look at? I think it's as always appropriate to remind ourselves of the daily. Daily is still very much bearish from a moving average perspective. Now, while we have regained the 21 exponential moving average, which I do think is more or less good for the short term, the longer term is still very much nasty, as we do have the same setup that we got back all the way on over here. I mean, we've gotten this many times, but I just want to kind of show the validity of this, where we get the death cross right in over here, the green and the purple, that's 50 and the 200. Then we get the cyan below the purple right here, that's all lower periods below higher periods, very similar to what's going on right on over here. Probably can't see it all that well, but basically what we have is the death cross right here. Then we have all lower periods officially below higher periods right here, with the cyan passing below the 200 exponential moving average. All major moving averages get negative slope, and the 200 simple starts curl down as well. That's kind of like the icing on the cake, or the nail in the coffin, the dagger, if you want to call it that. So longer term, I do think that we're actually set in for a pretty nasty, probably still pretty nasty continuation of the downside. But just as you saw right over here, Bitcoin can have its bear market rallies, absolutely. But as long as we're below the 200 simple on the macro, I am overall looking for some more downside on the macro. But again, we can have a pretty damn pleasant rally all the way up, perhaps even all the way back up there, and still maintain the weekly downtrend. That's the damning nature of what's going on right now, unfortunately. And as you can see over here, on that first major, sorry, let me regather my thoughts. It's been these fucking Finns drink coffee like none other, and it's like the strongest coffee of all time too. Anyways, looking at this right here. Okay, so this is the area in question, right? You can see that Bitcoin is trending to the downside the whole way through, as long as we remain below the 21 exponential moving average, especially this yellow guy right here. It's not until we regain the 21 exponential moving average where Bitcoin kind of catches its footing and then mounts a rally attempt. I believe that that's likely what we're seeing right now. Again, not to make a fractal out of it. The goddamn squirrels are going to start to bark about this, but it's not a fractal in any way, but the moving average is telling you about the general trajectory, which I do think is quite useful. And look at where the 10 simples coming in around. It's actually now above our last higher low. So good. So yes, we probably do play out a little bit of a rally from this region, but as we kind of have caught our footing over here, as we did, back on over here. But, don't lose sight of the forest and the trees, which is very applicable to me right now because I'm literally covered by trees. So yeah, again, the top side of this like short-term range would be about 7,800. I don't have an opinion on whether we take it out or not, or get rejected from it. What I have an opinion on is that if we get rejected from it, it's going to be a nasty move for the downside back down into the $600 region, and we probably break it on the next attempt. By the same token, if we break it to the upside, I do believe that we'd make our way up to about the 200 exponential moving average right here. Anywhere around 8,300 to 8,500 kind of makes sense. It's also going to be in line with the weeklies, and if things get even crazier from there, then yeah, we could probably target the 200 simple. But I remain macro bearish as long as we're below the 200 simple and maintaining a weekly downtrend. That has just been the easiest way to trade Bitcoin since the eternity of eternity, and has gotten all the major moves in Bitcoin, even though it doesn't get you the ultimate high, the ultimate low, which I will never get the ultimate high, the ultimate low for an actual positional trade, because I will not call a reversal until we actually reverse the weekly trend. So I always want to be very, very straightforward with saying that, because I don't want it to be any surprise when someone says like, Krown, but you were bearish over here. It's like, well, yeah, but charts change, and now we have an uptrend, so can't really be bearish anymore now, can we? So yeah. All right, I've already been recording for 32 minutes. I think that's kind of a good area to start to wrap things up. Let's actually go over and check out Bitcoin dominance for right now. I'm bullish on Bitcoin dominance longer term. Short term, I believe I am as well, and I'd say I'd still kind of hold on to that. We are above all major moving averages here. I do believe that short, medium term, we move our way back up to like 71.5%, and then probably longer term, 73% and beyond. So most alts are going to be actually getting cream pied once again, forced back down to the low side of their ranges. I don't think that they're breaking ranges just yet, but they are really solidifying, pretty intense downtrends. So I always like to pick on Cardano for this, but of course this can be applied to just about any old altcoin. This is your chart right here. It looks like a dead fucking heartbeat, and we did have a little bit of a bounce off the lows from the lowest side of the range. Yes, we got that earlier this week, but I do think that longer term, this actually looks like it wants to bounce a little bit more, to be fair. We are losing some momentum. We actually do have some bullish divergence on the daily right here, while historical volatility percentile is actually very, very low. You know what? Maybe we actually do get a little bit of a rally here. I would actually be short-term bullish on Cardano and probably most alts versus Satoshis. Let's go check out Link. Links on major support right now, same sort of thing right here. Momentum also is looking like they want to turn up. I'd probably say the same thing on Link. So you know what? Most alts are probably going to be looking for a little bit of bouncy territory right here. What about Litecoin? Litecoin looks terrible, so maybe not. Maybe I take all this back. Mr. Bureau looks terrible as well. I think I take all this back. Okay, so apart from a few, most altcoins probably going to be headed back down in line with the Bitcoin dominance, which I would still say is quite bullish there, longer term. So cool. Okay, what else do we want to look at? I haven't looked at the total market cap in a long time. Let's actually check this guy out right here. See if there's anything new to be aware of. Looks more or less like the Bitcoin chart. Overall bearish, but short term, probably some upside. Weekly had a phenomenal wick off the 200 simple and 200 exponential moving average, so I do like that. And yeah, probably does align with the test back up here at around a little bit over 200 billion, which would probably put Bitcoin, in the upper sevens, I'd imagine. Okay, so let's go check out the other altcoin pairings versus dollar. Butyrol looks terrible. Wow. Butyrol looks like a massive rejection. Probably does pop back up to like 130, 131 region, but rejection there probably sends us back down to the lows and beyond. Weekly looks like continuation. Looks very, very bad. We did get the bounce from the area that we were looking for, but Jesus Christ, to spill back on over this fast is not the best signal. Again, going to follow whatever Bitcoin does for the most part. Same thing with Litecoin. Very, very nasty here. The 200 simple is literally on the week. This is the weekly, by the way. The 200 simple is pretty much around our like 2 highs ago. Oh my God. This one's going to be very bearish for a long time. And in fact, a lot of people looking for Mrs. Litecoin to be insightful into Bitcoin's halving. I do understand that there's differences between these guys fundamentally, but in practice, I would not put it past Bitcoin to pull something like this. Traditional markets closing on new all-time highs. Goddamn, man. Powerful as fuck. Super impressive. We've been bullish on this one for a long time. I'd still be bullish on it. I mean, short-term, medium-term, do we get pullbacks? Maybe yes, but as long as we're above now like 315, and we've moved this up each and every week, starting with, all the way back on over here from 301, then 309, then 315, and now even the most aggressive is like 318 and a half, although I would say that 315 is still the big one. As long as we remain above there, still overall bullish. We can come back down there, reaccumulate, and that would be completely fine, but long term it's very, very bullish, and fundamentally it is as well. Let's go check out Stellar versus USD. Bearish as fuck as well. Same thing with Butyrol and Litecoin. So altcoins are looking a lot more bearish versus the dollar than Bitcoin, I'd say right now. And perhaps I am going to be wrong about some short-term upside being tested once again. Monero, okay, yeah, it's a little bit more on Bitcoin side, I suppose, but still being held below all major moving averages. Ripple Nipples, same thing, bearish as fuck. Just kind of bear flagging out after a piss poor bounce attempt. Not very impressive. EOS, a little bit better than the rest, kind of a little bit more in line with Bitcoin. Neo, weak as fuck. Again, lower high just set in place at 890. We did get our $9.10 tick, or did we? Yeah, 907, close enough. What about Tron? All the way back down to one spot, 3.5. So we did get our target met down there. I mean, this is just a massive rejection right here. So what do you make of this across the greater cryptosphere? The greater cryptosphere is more bearish than bullish, absolutely. Looking at Bcash and Zcash, both look like absolute dog shit. So going back on over to Bitcoin over here, the more that I look around, the more and more likely it's looking like we probably do get stopped in the at the top side of this first range right here, like maybe between 7,700 and 7,800. In fact, so perhaps I do try some positions around there. It does offer up a nice risk reward. Of course, doesn't mean that it's 100% guaranteed to work out. No trade is 100% guaranteed to work out, but the risk management of that makes it successful longer term, potentially. So yeah, after looking around the greater crypto sphere, I do think that it's actually kind of like that Bitcoin does crash back down here. Holy shit. Most of those guys just printed lower highs, whereas Bitcoin kind of did regain its footing a little bit. At the end of the day, I do put the most importance on Bitcoin, but it is quite interesting to see that the rest of the market does not really agree. So that kind of diminishes my own confidence in that earlier analysis, but I could still stick with the same sort of areas that we were looking at. As long as we remain above the 4-hour 200 simple on a 4-hour closing basis, I do think that Bitcoin probably gets another test back up to like 75, 7,600, and that's where things get interesting once again. Nothing really changes from the low time frame perspective as long as we're below about 7,800, as we spoke about this blue box right here. If we do break above it, I would look for a move into 83, 8,500 territory. And of course, to the downside, if we actually do break the 200 simple on the 4 hour, I would look for a move down here towards about 7,100 to 7,050. I would probably look for another low time frame bounce there, but from there we'd have to come back and reassess, because that would be not close enough to the danger zone to make a committed trade, in my opinion, at least for myself, but it would start to become very, very interesting depending upon the reaction from that region. Of course, the obvious area where things really start to fall apart is if the 12-hour or even like a 4-hour closes below, let's call it 6,900, even 6,950 would be pretty damn bad, but that's where things start to get muddy once again. So I'd really want to see that in real time before I make a an analysis of that. But for right now, I'd still kind of stick with what I'm saying here. We did get the pullback they were looking for. I'd probably be looking for a bounce attempt, and then we'll reassess after that. I think that's going to do it for right now. Jesus Christ, man, this video already about 20 minutes longer than I intended for. I do apologize about that. But hey, before I sign off, I want to wish you and yours truly and all your families and friends and everyone that you fucking know, even your enemies, a Merry Christmas, a happy holidays, whatever fucking holiday you celebrate. Hey, I'm wishing you a happy holiday. If you don't celebrate anything, happy Tuesday as well. It's all about sending good vibes out, man. That's what it's about. I know that some people get a little bit on edge if they're, let's say, not let's say they don't celebrate Christmas, and then they get pissed off. Like if you say Merry Christmas, I mean, people tell it to me all the time. I'm not really like Christian or anything like that. I'm not really any religion, but yeah, it's all about intent, man. So again, I want to be wishing you well on this nice little Tuesday, this Christmas Eve. I will be back on tomorrow with another uploaded video from the forest. So no disgusting spaghetti hair camera, and this microphone, which is less than optimal, also going to be present for that one as well. And of course, the sale on all programs is still going on until the end of the year. So with that said, take care, and until next time.